Hello, welcome back to this episode of Dawsons Auctioneers podcast. On the line with me today is Jack Rose, who is the associate editor of the behemoth that is Worthpoint, a resource for the art and antiques world. Not just does it contain something like, was it 162 million or something? So,
Oh, for a price guide,
160.
yeah,
Yeah,
entries.
yeah. So there's a price guide, an online database, including images and some astronomical amount of illustrated images, valuable resource, and also there's access to lots of informative articles written by esteemed experts in their field, in every particular field. So welcome, Jack. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, James.
No, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. So, where did it all begin then? Where did Worthpoint? Well, first of all, not to put the cart before the horse, your origins. How did you get into this business?
Well, mainly I've always had a background in writing, particularly sort of in the translation of a highly technical information. Things that may be need to be understood, but may
Sure.
have a little bit of a hard time being translated well. So my main interest in the field really came about from the individual histories of the piece. I have always been
Sure.
more of a history-leaning person.
Sure.
So, quite a while ago, I discovered another expert around the southeast of America named Wayne Jordan. And Wayne Jordan is just sort of one of those pillars of the community for us.
Sure.
Decades of experience in just a whole variety of different applications in the antiquing industry. And he has always had a very strong ability to write. We started communicating that way. I was brought along, and I was brought along to Worthpoint through that. And yeah, it's just sort of transitioned into a sort of correspondence position where it is this. I've always loved finding the stories. I've always loved
Yeah.
talking to the people and hearing the
Yeah.
story about how they discovered the story. It's just always that layer of, sort of the dialogue between the pieces that has always been of just a paramount interest to me.
Sure. Sure. And I guess my take on it is, from what you've said, your ability to isolate and translate the detail and put that across helps you obviously in your position. I mean, because obviously if you were taking very technical information and putting it into a format that people could understand readily, it's got to have helped, hasn't it, in what you do now?
I think that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Part of my position is communicating with the experts who really truly know and understand this
Sure.
information. And sort of more my role is to make their information palatable and understandable.
Sure.
And yeah, that's definitely been it, is that it's finding the origins of the knowledge and trying to just get that to as many
Sure.
people as
A-
possible.
and act as a conduit, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. um Worthpoint's quite an interesting phenomenon, in as much as I was involved in the early versions of price databases in Britain, with Invaluable to start with, um, when it changed from thesaurus to Invaluable back in the dark ages, when I used to ride a mammoth to work. I am actually that old.
Uphill both
And
ways.
and it's quite interesting how it's gone on from there. And this will make you laugh. The main consideration then, we were given there was a body of seven of us, and we were given these CD-ROMs. That's there you go. There's one for the teenagers. We're given these CD-ROMs with a limited amount of information on them, and they said, "What do you think of the concept of a database?" And we said, "Well, what will happen? Will everyone, you subscribe, and then you get a CD-ROM
Yeah.
every year?" But of course, then you see, most people were on dial-up then, with the old noisy modems, and so most of the information that was available would have taken it would have been accessible, especially if it was accompanied by images. And so we saw it as a useful resource if only we had a method of delivery. But of course, then technology moved on apace, and now broadband is more common. It's more likely that you've got broadband than you haven't.
Right.
And it was quite interesting actually. But a fascinating resource, and it was always a second bite of the cherry, and especially from companies that used to do a sort of a search, so you could subscribe and put in your search criteria if you're interested in Samson Morden, I don't know, Costrel barrel shaped vinaigrettes.
Mhm.
And of course, people were submitting their catalogues to them because there was always that. It was the elephant in the room that was the second bite of the cherry that was to be had. That they've got all the information just waiting,
Right.
and it's the 1% of the 1% of information that's absolutely dynamite, really. And in this business, knowledge is power. But every day's a school day. So, what's your favourite part of your remit at the moment, for want of a better term?
I guess really and truly, it's not to try to flatter you too much, but it's positions like this. It's
Your checks in the post.
yeah, exactly. uh, really, it was actually like you had just said. It's always a
Yeah,
school day. It
yeah,
is that in the antiquing industry, it's not only continuing education isn't only just
yeah,
available; it's mandatory.
yeah,
It's very much that growth or die.
yeah,
Maintenance is stagnation. It's
yeah,
the continual development. It's always that next story that is just hiding under those three extra boxes of junk you've had
yeah,
to sift through.
yeah.
It's always just you never know what's going to happen. All you know
Mm.
is that you have to be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it never ceases to amaze me that this business, the amount of things that turn up. I mean, we had one recently, a painting which was a sleeper. We managed to track it back after the fact, I hasten to add, to a sale in 1956, and it had remained in one ownership since then, just forgotten, gathering dust, and we sold it recently for £255,000. And it's just amazing, really, the way these things surface. It's almost as if they almost have a sort of they have a consciousness and they surface at the right time. They lay dormant for years and years and years, and then I think it's fate. I mean, I often say that these things are sent, and I suppose I'm slightly superstitious in that, But these couldn't have happened to a nicer lady, and it came at exactly the right time. But everything was aligned, as my old mother would say. The planets were aligned,
Right.
and everything was just in synchronicity. But it is the things which just crop up. Last time we sold some very important French furniture, and it found good homes even in the straitened times that the furniture business finds itself in. So, another question for you: what percentage of your subscribers come from the UK? Would you have said to your database?
That would be something that we would probably have to
It's
evaluate
just
with our user base. But we do have a pretty good history.
sure,
Aubrey was involved with us for a little bit. A
sure,
decade
sure.
ago. And I think it is sort of that we've always been trying to
Yeah,
expand more into the UK and do projects along these lines, just because. Like you've said, like I've said, like Aubrey have said, the antiquing industry is a very tight knit industry
oh
that,
yes, it's very
and especially,
incestuous, as they
yeah,
say.
and especially with the introduction and sort of the mandatory shift towards more online platforms, we're able to connect with each other more across the
Yeah,
world than we ever have been before.
yeah.
There are more ties that are binding us.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember as a child being taken to auctions, and I remember being on holiday with my parents, and of course as antique leaders, you never really take a holiday. It's always, oh, we'd take a holiday there because we hear there's a sale going on near so and so, so and so,
Right.
and I always remember it never ceases to amaze me. The people that used to be able to find all the things used to be the carpet dealers. And so we went for a holiday at a small village in Devon, in rural Devon, and there was a farm sale going on. And I can always remember it. And there was no one there, just a couple of farmers and a few locals. And there were some quite good carpets there. And about 5 lots before they turned up, most of the London carpet trade turned up en masse. This was pre-internet, and you just wonder, how do these guys? Are they omnipresent? Do they just sense it? Have they got some sort of spidey sense? Do they, sense
Absolutely.
there's some good carpet somewhere? But it's an interesting world now, I suppose. It's changed, of course. I mean, as a traditionalist, um, I thought a great innovation was the fact that we had telephone bids and things. And now, sort of scroll forward, if you'd have said to me when I first started, James, one day you will have a computer on your desk, I'd go, get away. I never will. But there you go. But there you go. Well, it's been very interesting to talk to you. Lovely to meet you, and I hope we can work together in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you. Bye.